last episode ended with me near Brainerd, Minnesota, which left me with a late-night drive from Brainerd to Bemidji. It was a very beautiful drive with fog over the lakes and the sounds of frogs everywhere. Unfortunately, I was driving, so you have to settle for this crappy picture and piped-in frogs. Just so you don't think that I'm a terrible photographer, I'll show you some of my best photography from the trip up northwest. The Clearwater County Historical Society was one of the many I visited on this trip. They had an unnamed fiddle on display. With a little research, I found out that this fiddle was made in the county by an eccentric-looking fellow named Daniel Peterson. Instead of just being some unknown fiddle, it'll now have a local story that can be told with it. This same historical society actually had another fiddle that was made by someone in the county, Gundar Larson from Bagley, Minnesota. I finally made it to the reason for my journey, a talk with Hilary Stallman in Thief River Falls. It was a joy to sit around and listen to old tapes with him. Hilary's one of the few surviving fiddlers from the masters whose tunes we learned on the first Minnesota Fiddle Tunes project disc. I have loved his tunes from the very first time I heard them, and was very excited to meet him. The visit was very special to me as he welcomed me with open arms and put me in charge of archiving his and his father's old tunes. I will devote a whole episode to him sometime, but let's just say that this man lived a full life. After retirement from a life on a railroad, he has organized the preservation of a train that he conducted, which now sits in the heart of the town. He can recount a lifetime of wild adventures, including the month-long canoe trip to the Canadian tundra. Many of his diverse romps have been chronicled by the local paper. I look forward to the work it will take to share his legacy with future generations. Up next we have a local band, who with help from the Minnesota Fiddle Tunes Project, learned one of Hilary's father's tunes. The final main stop on this trip was to see Kenny Amundsen in Benson, Minnesota. I was bringing back the tapes of his father Harris, who many old-timers considered to be the best of the Minnesota fiddlers. Although the tapes didn't have a lot on them, it was still great to archive about 30 tunes from Harris. While at Kenny's shop, I asked him about the rumor that the great Minnesota fiddler Elmer Witt's fiddle was still there, which it was. He shared many stories of his dad and Elmo playing from back in the day, and then he insisted on giving me Elmo's old fiddle, which is such an honor. I'm already playing some of Elmo's old tunes on it, which feels great. Although this trip across Minnesota was 750 miles in only a couple of days, I found it to be one of the most rewarding trips yet. It was a very spiritual trip.